Biden administration is preparing for a record number of new migrants up at the southern border. It's up to 400,000 people in October. It's our top story at 5:30.
After those dramatic scenes at that crowded migrant camp under a border bridge in Del Rio, tonight, U.S. officials telling NBC News the Biden administration is preparing for an even more massive surge in October. Up to 400,000 migrants crossing the border, which would be a record, nearly doubling the stunning numbers we've seen the last 2 months, which were a 21-year high. The new surge likely, officials say, because of a court order due to start tomorrow lifting a COVID restriction known as Title 42, which had allowed officials to quickly deport most asylum seekers during the pandemic. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas saying keeping Title 42 is critical.
That is an authority that the Centers for Disease Control has determined to still be necessary given where we are in the arc of the pandemic.
In Del Rio, border authorities were taken by surprise by a surge of mostly Haitian migrants who came from South America. 5,000 were deported back to Haiti, but the administration released most into the U.S., around 13,000, asking them to report to an immigration center to start asylum hearings. Tonight, immigration advocates say it's time to end Title 42.
It's blatantly illegal under both U.S. and international law and has caused enormous harm to hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration is trying again to end the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy. Critics say it kept asylum seekers waiting in very poor conditions in Mexico for U.S. court dates. Supporters say it deterred migrant surges.
The border crisis in the United States is about to double the record of the last 21 years because the suspension of Title 42 could stimulate the entry of close to 400,000 illegal immigrants. NBC reported, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Alejandro Mayorkas, posed a question to his agency on whether it was prepared for between 350,000 and 400,000 undocumented immigrants entering in October. The stay of Title 42 enforcement was issued by U.S. District Judge Emmett Sullivan on September 16, effective September 30th. The Biden administration appealed Sullivan's decision. If the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for Washington, D.C., does not overturn it, it could go to the Supreme Court, although it is time-consuming. On Thursday, September 30th, the U.S. Appeals Court allowed the Biden administration to keep expelling illegal migrants due to COVID-19 risks while the lawsuit proceeds. In addition to the fact that Central American governments have warned of tens of thousands of illegal immigrants transiting their territories en route to the U.S., the suspension of Title 42 could be interpreted by foreigners as an opening of the border with Mexico, officials told NBC. The legislation contained in Title 42, issued during the administration of then-President Donald Trump, blocks the entry of most asylum seekers and returns them to Mexico, regardless of their nationalities, for them to follow a regular and organized process. However, several attempts have been made during the Biden administration to deactivate its suspension. In this regard, the lead attorney in the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, litigation that sought to stop the use of Title 42 expressed the following. Given that the administration was already this summer allowing most families to seek asylum and has now been in power for 8 months, there's no reason why there needs to be any further delay ending Title 42, according to Newsweek October 1st. The crisis caused by illegal immigration worries Americans to the extent that only 35% of them approve of President Joe Biden's handling of the issue, according to a new Associated Press Newark Public Affairs Research Center poll. Thus, author Wayne Dupree describes, this is an invasion. They steal Social Security numbers, go to the hospital without intent to pay, get into car crashes with no insurance, stack up illegal numbers of people in rentals and wreck the property. It's not okay. It's an insult to legal immigrants. The situation is so dire that Representative Chip Roy called on Texas to take matters into its own hands, secure the border and protect the people of Texas. We need to secure the border of the United States for the welfare of the people, not just us, but the migrants getting abused in the false name of compassion by the Democrats who like to pat themselves on the back, Roy said. He added, the governor, the state of Texas, needs to own this and seal the border.
Chris, this is nothing new. We've seen this type of irregular migration many, many times.
The statistics of your own department show that the flood of people coming illegally across the border has gotten worse under the Biden administration.
So I wouldn't call it a flood, Chris, if I may.
That's our Homeland Secretary denying that the situation at the border is out of the ordinary. Joining us now is Michael Cutler, Senior Special Agent INS, that's Immigration Naturalization Services, retired. He's a columnist. He's host of the Michael Cutler Hour. Michael, it's so great to see you. Welcome to the show. So Mayorkas wouldn't call it a flood. He got all ticked off. What do you call the tens of thousands of people invading our country?
It's a catastrophe, but I'm reminded of Voltaire's famous quote that they who can convince you of absurdities can make you commit atrocities. By the way, Mayorkas was the head of Citizenship and Immigration Services for Mr. Obama, and he was investigated by the Office of Inspector General for demanding that his people approve all applications, even when legally they should never have been approved. They found evidence of wrongdoing by this guy, and yet he is now running Homeland Security. Think of the enormity of that. By the way, the 9/11 Commission, to which I provided testimony, identified immigration fraud and visa fraud as the key methods of entry and embedding for the terrorists. And this guy wanted everything approved.
So then we're in trouble with what's going on at this border.
Absolutely. And if you look at that 9/11 Commission report, they also identified border security as being a critical element of national security, and they identified it as a critical weapon in the war against terrorism. How do you protect the country when you have no idea who's coming here? So now, Steve, let's add to that what's happened in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is now a base of operations for ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist organizations. We know from prior congressional hearings that Hezbollah throughout Latin America, you normally think Hezbollah, Middle East, and Iran, well, they've got tens of thousands of operatives working throughout Latin America, moving people through the drug cartels and human trafficking organizations into the United States along with drugs and sleeper agents.
Yep. So we don't know who the heck's coming through the border at all, and it's a wide range of possibilities. Michael, I want you to watch this.
Of course, I take responsibility. I'm president, but it was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over, people being strapped, it's outrageous. I promise you, those people will pay.
Now, you've called Biden the con man in chief in a recent article that you wrote that appeared on Front Page Magazine. This whole fake news story of border agents whipping Haitian migrants seems like a conspiracy between the media and the White House and the Democrats.
And the globalists, and we can find them on both sides.
I mean, but are they going to get away with this? I mean, but Biden has threatened to punish these agents, says they will be punished, basically. The investigation, as we talk right now, still going on. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, they've put Mayorkas in charge of the investigation. I'm glad I'm no longer working for the former INS. Look, this is a witch hunt against anybody who would enforce America's laws. This goes hand in glove with the defund police lunacy that has caused the deaths of how many children who were in the wrong place at the wrong time and were shot by violent thugs. You know, I have a basic question that every American should ask every politician, and particularly this corrupt, screwed up administration. How are your actions and policies in the best interests of America and Americans? Why are we not looking at that 9/11 Commission report? If you watch the hearing past 2 days with the leaders from the military, they are in agreement with what I believe, that America has never been at a greater risk for a terror attack than we are right now. Without interior enforcement, without border security, we're in trouble.
Okay, so you talked about how Americans should ask themselves. Here's a message or a statement from Donald Trump talking about Americans. Watch.
And they've just put them under watch. They're in big trouble, the riders of those horses. Most people would say they were doing one hell of a job, right? Don't you think?
Now, former President Trump weighing in on the hoax, and now I believe he's correct. And Michael, some media outlets, including the New York Times, are now backing off their original narrative of border agents whipping Haitians. Trump, though, I think if we took a poll in this country, would be absolutely correct on how Americans view those brave men on those horses.
Absolutely. And here's my question. How many of those aliens that were trying to sneak in illegally were actually injured? Was anybody hospitalized? No. The agents were simply protecting our border and protecting the American people. And that's the other question. Was anybody injured? Of course not.
No, they weren't hit with any whips at all. There were no whips. Let me ask you this. We got about a minute. Do you believe all this is being done on purpose, that they're letting these migrants into the country to reshape America, a.k.a. the Great Replacement Theory, something Tucker Carlson has come under fire for suggesting?
Yeah, I do. And by the way, the amnesty, I want everyone to pay attention to this. The amnesty that Biden's pushing, the 11 million, there's probably 3 times that number, but what no one talks about is they could bring in all their children. Biden's amnesty could lead to an influx of over 100 million people. It would crash the economy, turn America into Venezuela. There'd be no interviews, no field investigations. It would be catastrophic and irreversible. This is about a power grab by the Democrats who want nothing more than permanent power and a one-party government. And that's what I believe they're actually pushing for.
Unbelievable. Michael Cutler, quickly, where could people hear your show? Very quickly.
Sure, it's Blog Talk Radio, the Michael Cutler Hour. I write for Front Page Magazine, usinc.org, and my website is michaelcutler.net. Steve, it's great to join you. Be well.
Thank you.
I'd be glad to join you whenever I can be helpful to you.
They've done nothing. Zero. Zilch.
I feel that the people that are immigrants, it's not really their fault. I feel it's the fault of the president allowing them to come to the United States and give them freedom to travel anywhere they want to.
Well, he opened the door by saying we have an open border.
They felt that they had been promised by the president that they would become United States citizens.
You can't do that when you have people, there are thousands of millions of dollars spent for our borders. And then to say we have an open border, that just, it don't match.
Not because I'm a Democrat or Republican, but it looks very poorly when the situation this big and the way it escalated, and there are not a lot of responses from the administration. Also, when they do address it and they address some things like videos on the Border Patrol that obviously were not what they're saying, right? And that they address that is a problem, how the Border Patrol or our officers are handling it. I think it leaves a sour taste in the mouth of all the citizens, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat.
We've taken a long time to handle the situation because it's been mounting bit by bit. It's not just a thing that happened like over the course of just 1 week.
With living so close on the border, we've had to install, because they're crossed right down our road, we've had to install security cameras in our yard. We've had to put up 3 additional lights because they cross right over into the yard.
I'm not against no press or anything like that, but once they get in office, it seems like they do whatever they want to do.
I think it was handled poorly, but when you come to think of it, when you get 10, 12,000 people together like that, it's hard to handle it anyway.
It was kind of hard because there was so many people, but no, I think they did a great job.
I know the United States is composed of immigrants, but to me, in my opinion, enough is enough. Yeah, I welcome immigrants, but not to that point. It's hard being here as it is, and I know I see their problems, and I try to feel for them, but we have our own problems.
We need to take care of our own people. We need to take care of our poor people. We need to take care of the vets. And I mean, even in Acuna, they've got shelters there. And a lot of the Hispanics that live there say the Haitians and the immigrants get treated better than they do when they live there.
Social media is full of headlines, and the necessary context doesn't always follow. Check out this tweet with tens of thousands of likes and retweets, which says that the number of immigrants detained by ICE has increased 70% under President Biden. So is there any truth to that? Let's verify with the help of our experts, Denise Gilman, Ruth Wassam, and the data from these three sources: the Migration Policy Institute, Syracuse University's TRAC, or track reports obtained by using a Freedom of Information Act request, and ICE itself. Let's start by taking a look at the data. Syracuse's data shows a 77% increase in the number of people detained by ICE from January 22nd, 2021 to August 24th. And ICE data shows an increase of 66% from the month of January to the month of August in the average daily detention population. So we can verify that yes, detentions have gone up around 70%, but our experts say that this short time span doesn't tell the full story.
Immigration detention in the United States has been expanding dramatically since about 1996. We used to be talking about a couple of thousand people in detention throughout an entire year. And then by the end of the Trump administration, before COVID really hit and the courts intervened to demand releases, before that, we were talking about 55, 60,000 people in detention every day.
So let's take a look at these trends over time with data compiled by the Migration Policy Institute. This graph shows that the pandemic brought a 20-year low in detentions. In 2021, under a new administration, that number has jumped back up. Now, if you want to take a look at the data for yourself, we have all the information on our website. Just text the word verify to this number, 202-895-5599. We'll send a link right to your phone. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozlov.
News at 6. Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Alvarez.
And I'm Maggie Smolka. An agreement has been reached between Immigration Customs Enforcement, Clearfield County, and the GEO Group to reopen the Moshannon Valley Correctional Facility and operate as a federal immigration detention center.
And our Yanni Trigelis has actually been following this story very closely. He joins us live now from the soon-to-be ICE facility in Clearfield County. Yanni, can you tell us more about this agreement?
Matt and Maggie, this is a 5-year agreement to reopen the privately owned prison to serve as a federal detention center. Now, the individuals that will be held here, they will fall under ICE's enforcement priorities guidelines, and those guidelines, they are focused on national security, border security, and public safety.
They'll have their due process in immigration court if that's what the law calls for, while we go through the process to attempt to effectuate their removal.
At maximum capacity, the center will hold about 1,900 people, but will initially only house up to 800 due to COVID guidelines. All individuals at the facility will be in violation of immigration laws, varying from coming here illegally to overstayed visas and other permits.
Beds will hold adults. There will not be any children, primarily males, with some room for females.
The reopening of the Moshannon Valley Correctional Center means jobs coming back to the area, and GEO officials say they plan to rehire many of those who lost their jobs earlier this year.
When it closed, it was very hard for a lot of folks. In fact, folks didn't know what to do on that last day.
More than 300 people lost their jobs when the facility closed, some who had been with the GEO Group for its 20 years operating the facility.
Now with this new contract, over 300 will have opportunities to be reemployed at the facility, performing a new mission.
Including security officers and transportation officers, as well as registered nurses and others from the medical field.
Training begins next Monday, so we will be in full operation as far as the transition to be able to accept detainees in 45 to 60 days.
So right now, final preparations are being done to reopen the prison, including upgrading its fencing to make it unclimbable, as well as some other upgrades. And now the biggest difference between what this facility will serve as and the previous prison, to come here to this ICE detention center, you do not have to commit a felony. You just have to be in violation of immigration laws. But previously, with the previous Moshannon Valley Correctional Center, all of the detainees that were being held at the center had committed felonies. In Phillipsburg, Yanni Trigelis, WTAJ News.
And this group of migrants also in federal custody today. Our cameras rolling just as they stepped onto U.S. soil last night. Our team on the ground with the Texas National Guard. They have been working with state police to help federal agents secure the border. Channel 5's Ismar Ventura with an exclusive look at the efforts underway right here in the Valley.
number of people who are coming across the border.
Since March, and by order of Governor Greg Abbott, hundreds of soldiers from the Texas National Guard have been working with the Department of Public Safety and Border Patrol to stop the continuous flow of migrants along the banks of the Rio Grande.
Tell you we have approximately 1,400 soldiers assigned to this mission right now, and they're spread out from Del Rio all the way east to Weslaco. This number is going to grow. I can't give you a number, but it will be growing.
To help their efforts, the Texas National Guard uses high-definition technology.
We're able to provide tactical vehicles. We're able to provide advanced optics. We're able to provide top-notch training with our soldiers. Not only is it military training, but we train the Department of Public Safety so we can apprehend and refer to the appropriate law enforcement agency.
Through the darkness, on the American side, we find the first group of migrants crossing into Roma, having started their journey in Guatemala. Right now, a coyote crossed you?
No, we came alone.
We came on a boat.
Along with them, a young father with his 1-year-old daughter. They traveled from El Salvador for almost a month. How long was your trip?
I have made my way here by myself on buses, just on bus. I already knew the way to get here a little with my GPS, and he's been directing me.
He says he could not endure the extortion anymore by the gangs back in El Salvador.
I made the decision to take out a loan. I bought my motorcycle. I began to work. The gangs began to bother me. They said, "We want money from you every day." They were asking $5 a day.
But other migrants choose to pay for the services of human traffickers who cross them on rafts with little protection. In the dark, out in the distance, you can see entire families. And this is just one of the landing spots along the river where the human smugglers are releasing the migrants. Then they make their way up north, sometimes avoiding apprehension and other times being caught by the authorities.
We focus on the males, the single males, and anybody that runs. If somebody is running and trying to go between law enforcement and our security posts that we have along the Rio Grande Valley, then we know that they're into some activity and they're not coming here to claim asylum.
After stepping on U.S. soil, the migrants walk toward higher areas away from the river to meet with Border Patrol. Meanwhile, these soldiers say they expect more migrants to reach the river seeking asylum. In Roma, Ismar Ventura, Channel 5 News.
Now to the border crisis. We will talk exclusively with former Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott over the next 2 days. First, exclusive new video tonight of our Fox News crew on patrol with Texas state troopers discovering migrants on the run. Correspondent Bill Malugian has tonight's report from La Joya, Texas.
It's early Monday morning near La Joya, Texas, and we are embedded with a Texas state trooper searching for illegal immigrants hiding in the brush. Within just a matter of minutes, the trooper and Border Patrol partners were finding migrants seemingly everywhere in one small area near a residential neighborhood. Some of them laying face down in the dirt in an effort to conceal themselves. Some wearing camouflage, all of them single adult men or women. The trooper and border agents backed up by a surveillance balloon above called an aerostat, an all-seeing eye providing overwatch during the dark of night. In just a couple of hours, dozens of illegal immigrants were apprehended here. A busy night for Border Patrol with an assist from Texas DPS. 2 weeks ago, as 15,000 Haitians descended on Del Rio, Governor Greg Abbott asked President Biden to declare a federal emergency at the border. The Biden administration refused, and now Governor Abbott is appealing that decision, saying in part, President Biden has turned his back on Texans living along the border, and FEMA's refusal to declare a federal emergency at the border puts their health, safety, and property at risk. Former ICE Director Tom Homan says that decision is yet another example of the Biden administration not taking the border seriously.
Biden's proven again to American people that he doesn't believe in border security. The root causes Kamala Harris don't have to go to Central America. She just got to walk down the hall to the Biden administration. There's your root causes, his policies.
And Brett, Panama's foreign minister recently warned U.S. officials that there are upwards of 60,000 more Haitian migrants who have moved through Panama and are currently on the way north heading towards the United States. She also pointed out to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez's office that Panama recently apprehended several people with known ties to Al-Qaeda as they were also moving north out of Panama. So some concerning information there. We'll send it back to you.
Hey, Bill, what happened to those people who were caught in the brush last night?
So for the most part, everybody we saw was a single adult, mostly single adult men. So what will happen to them is they will likely be expelled from the country via Title 42. That means they'll get put on a bus and just shipped right over to the Mexican side, city of Reynosa. They'll be dropped off, and there's a good chance that some of them will try their luck again, and we could see them out here in these fields once again sometime later on this week.
All right, great reporting out there. Thank you.
Again tonight with a breach at the southern border, leaving the city of San Luis on high alert. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Adonis Albright. Both the Yuma Sector Border Patrol and San Luis Police Department spent several hours searching for dozens of people, all who crossed the border illegally. News 11's Cody Lee joining us from San Luis tonight with the details.
That's right. I'm out here near Friendship Park in San Luis, right by the port of entry, and that's where Yuma Sector Border Patrol agents say nearly 60 undocumented immigrants climbed the border wall today using a ladder. San Luis Police Department issuing this public notice today, urging the community to be on alert, something they say they try to do whenever the public may be in danger.
From Border Patrol, they basically started jumping over walls into properties illegally, and that's one of our main concerns there. We're focusing on the protection and security of our community.
The portion breached is part of the old fencing at 18 feet, not the much taller wall that started being built in 2019 that now stands at 30 feet. Officials describe it as an overwhelming situation to the point where the San Luis Police Department had to assist Yuma Sector Border Patrol with apprehending undocumented immigrants. As of Friday night, only a few of the 60 had been captured. San Luis PD was able to send more than 10 officers to assist in making sure residents were okay. Even nearby schools were placed on lockdown out of an abundance of caution.
It becomes against the law, obviously, when we have people that are illegally crossing, jumping over the wall and going inside a property, trying to pry themselves inside, residences.
San Luis PD warns residents to take extra safety precautions and always lock your doors. Now, Border Patrol says this is an ongoing situation as they are still looking to apprehend some of these individuals. Border Patrol tells me that at least 7 of them have been sent back to Mexico. For now, reporting in San Luis, Cody Lee, back to you.
It has been a month since the remnants of Hurricane Ida wreaked havoc across our area, but financial assistance is just now being made available to undocumented immigrants. Fox 5's Briella Tomasetti explains.
Estaba acá y llamen a mis vecinos. Dios, yo lo único que decía era Dios, ayúdame.
The only thing I was saying is God help me, God help me. I tried to call one of my daughters, but she was in Florida and the other one wasn't answering, and I was saying, call my neighbors.
Nancy Ospina says she didn't have much time to react after water began pouring into her basement apartment in Woodside, where she's lived for more than 2 decades. The Queens housekeeper thanks her neighbors for getting her out alive, but has nothing left to her name.
Se perdieron los muebles.
I lost everything. I lost my bed, my furniture.
Todo lo de la sala, todo lo de la cocina, lo de los gabinetes, abajo todo se perdió.
Everything in the cabinets, everything in the kitchen.
El apartamento quedó invivible.
The apartment is unlivable.
Finally, relief is on the way for undocumented immigrants and survivors like Ospina who don't qualify for storm recovery assistance through FEMA or by other means.
We are establishing, and the applications start today, a brand new Ida Relief Fund for excluded New Yorkers.
Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor de Blasio making the joint announcement just weeks after Ida's remnants killed more than a dozen New Yorkers, flooded basement apartments, businesses, and even subway stations. The $27 million relief fund will be paid for by the state and the city. It'll be available to undocumented immigrants living in the 5 boroughs on Long Island, Westchester, and Rockland counties.
The money will be $36,000, up to that available for housing assistance, and up to $36,000 for other needs. So eligible for $72,000 to start getting their lives back.
The money will be distributed through a network of community organizations like Make the Road, located right here in Queens. To get assistance, you can call a special hotline at 1-800-566-7636, and help is available in more than 200 languages. Reporting from Jackson Heights, Briella Tomasetti, Fox 5 News.
I'm now 5:06. The state of Arizona once again accepting a common form of ID used by immigrants and non-citizens. It's called a consular ID, or matrícula consular in Spanish. The Mexican consulate in Phoenix tells me these cards are sometimes the only way people can identify themselves officially. It also makes it easier to do basic things like open a bank account. But for many years, they couldn't be used here. Governor Doug Ducey signing SB 1420 into law earlier this year, which requires the state to accept these cards as a valid form of identification.
We believe that the Arizona government is sending a very strong message of friendship to Mexico, and it's acknowledging the contributions of the Hispanic community to the state.
We're told that there are strict biometric screening rules in order to get one of these consular IDs. Also, these cards do not change someone's immigration status. If you're interested in applying for a consular ID, we've posted a link along with the story on abc15.com.
The Biden administration has announced its efforts to protect thousands of immigrants who are currently enrolled and eligible for the DACA program.
Fox 43's Victoria Lucas joins us live in Harrisburg this morning with a reaction from those locally who are DACA eligible. Good morning, Victoria.
Good morning. The move comes from an order passed in July, putting a halt to new applicants. Texas U.S. District Court Judge Andrew Hannon ruled that the 2012 DACA policy implemented by the Obama administration was illegal because it did not properly seek public feedback. The Biden administration has put out a proposed rule giving the public 60 days to provide feedback on the program. Back in September of 2017, the Trump administration did announce an end to the DACA program. However, this was then rescinded by the U.S. Supreme Court in June of 2020. Fox 43 spoke with the York College student who is DACA eligible and says it's all been a never-ending battle.
It's been like a roller coaster of emotions, and I've lost track of dates, and it's just a really long timeline of the times that I've been able to apply, and then once again it's been closed off. I can't really plan because I don't have these documents that would allow me to have a job, that would allow me to have a license, that would allow me to, just be protected here.
Department of Homeland Security officials are urging Congress to act swiftly and say this will provide the legal status dreamers need and deserve. More than 825,000 immigrants have been enrolled under DACA since 2012. Live in Harrisburg, Victoria Lucas, Fox 43 News.
And the Best Western in the foothills has been a source of controversy recently, but today there is a new development that has some residents relieved. Luis Lopez reports from the foothills.
Many residents here in the foothills were outraged to see buses used to transport migrants next to this Best Western. However, it's not migrants that are staying here, it's Border Patrol.
On Saturday morning, many residents in the foothills stumbled upon these buses. Many residents stopped to take a look, initially thinking that migrants were being housed at the hotel, which is what was originally planned before being canceled about a week ago. However, when residents found out it was Border Patrol being housed, they were relieved to hear it.
If you drive by and you see the buses, it's not for housing illegal immigrants. This is housing the Border Patrol agents, the good guys, the American citizens that work their butts off to secure our southern border.
Yuma County wants people to know that there is indeed no migrants staying at the hotel.
If it was a detention facility, you'd see a fence up around it. But this is just Border Patrol agents staying there that have come in to help with, the surge that they're seeing along the border.
As of right now, it's unclear how many Border Patrol agents are staying at the Best Western and how long they'll be here for. Reporting from the foothills, I'm Luis Lopez.
120 members of the Maine National Guard are now on the way to the U.S. southern border. Governor Janet Mills wishing them a safe deployment at a ceremony that was held at the Portland Jetport earlier today. The 488th Military Police Company will be monitoring mobile and remote video surveillance camera systems to provide updates to Border Patrol agents. The men and women of that group will remain at the border for 1 year.